Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Deirdre. It's my friend Katie. She's over in North Carolina, actually. Or Georgia, sorry. North Carolina. Elise, Caitlin, Kirsten, Tyler, thanks so much for being here, you guys. We're going to probably have a few more people signing on here soon. So I just want to give a quick introduction and talk about what's going to happen today. So we have Dr. Heather Harms with us. She's a local chiropractor. She's also a fellow YP, Young Professional. We're really excited to have her today. She's going to share a bunch of amazing things about how to really set up your home ergonomics, and then knowing that your home ergonomics are not always going to be perfect and they're not going to be great, how to take care of yourself during the day and give us some tips on that. We would love your feedback and conversation as we go. So there's a little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in there and Heather will answer them at the end after her presentation. And that way it'll be really engaging. Also, feel free to put comments or questions. We'll keep questions in the Q&A if you can, but if you have comments or other things, feel free to use the chat. Just make sure that in the little to spot where it says all panelists, use the drop down to change it to all panelists and attendees if you want everyone to be able to see it. If you only want to send information to me and Heather on the back end, then just do all panelists and that'll just come to us. But if you think you're talking to everyone, just make sure you check that. So great, looks like we have a few more people that are loading in. Thank you for joining us today again. We're really excited to have Heather. So Dr. Heather, like I said, is one of our very own young professionals here in Bend. She has a practice here. She is a licensed and board certified doctor of chiropractic. She attended the graduate school at the University of Western States in Portland. She has over 10 years of experience treating a whole array of ailments and things. So she's got quite a bit under her belt. So we're really excited to hear from her. Okay, thank you, everyone. I am now going to introduce Dr. Heather.
Okay, can everybody hear me? All right, all right, hi, I am Dr. Heather. I'm a chiropractor, as Addie said, here in Bend. I have an office in the Northwest Crossing District. I have a specialty in the cranial field. So that's a relationship between the cranium and the rest of the body, how they affect each other as a whole through the nervous system. I also treat full body, meaning spine and extremities. I see sports injuries, overuse injuries, chronic and acute pain cases. So spanning a long width of the body. So my background, I was formerly a massage therapist in a chiropractor's office and working for myself also in the cranial field. In 2013, I moved to Bend and had a practice on Harriman Street. I left at the end of 2014 for Portland for graduate school, came back last summer to Bend, and even though it changed a ton while I was gone, I'm really happy to be back. So I'm gonna switch over to the presentation now. And I'm new to Zoom, so I'm figuring all this out. Okay. Okay. All right. Addie, could you just give me a, is everybody seeing this okay?
Oh, we can't see you yet, Heather.
Oh, what do you mean?
Oh, we can see you, but not your screen.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay, now can you see my screen? Okay.
Oh, it's great.
Okay, and now you can see my mouse? Okay, great. All right, and then as Addie mentioned, if anybody has questions along the way, let me know so that I can know where to spend extra time if there's focus there. And one moment. I can't seem to find the chat.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead and just click the chat at the bottom of your screen there and it'll pop up. But
No.
while you're screen sharing, it might take up most of your screen. So I'll reduce anything if it comes in.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you guys were blocked. Oh, wait, no. Okay. Okay. Addie, if you would just give me a heads up of this. Okay. All right. So here we are with ergonomics to improve your productivity and lower stress, but we care about that because overall it'll just make us feel better and perform better in all areas of life. All right. Okay. Here's just a sneak peek of the inside of my treatment room. This is my dog Sheba, who comes with me on slow days. My website, drheatherdc.com. I just want to let you know you can find all my contact information there. If you have any follow-up questions from this talk or any other questions I can help you with, and I'll let you guys know that through all of this virus stuff, I do get to remain open so I can see you in office, but appointments by Zoom are also an option. And here's outside of my office in Northwest Crossing. All right, so the body is biomechanical. What that means is that there is a structure that dictates its function. The pillars that we look at for dictating function and structure are things that we've all heard of before. A diet, one that is helping us reduce inflammation in the body instead of creating more. So that's going to be unprocessed foods, etc. We need regular exercise, movement to help our muscles and tendons and body have blood flow and the strength to keep us upright. Paying attention to mental and physical awareness so that we are constantly aware of how we're affected by our surroundings and our thoughts and the way our body's positioned. We need sleep to encourage the recovery of our muscles, tendons, all of that. Even on a very cellular level, our blood and spinal fluid will wash away toxins from the day that are otherwise going to linger in our system and contribute to inflammation, brain fog, and soreness. Beyond that, after we've covered all the basics, sometimes we need some extra support. Sometimes that can be some kind of physical aid that we bring into our life or look to supplementation. Either way, sometimes we all need a little support, and figuring out what that is can go a long way. Okay, so ergonomics, we're going to be looking at movements, postures, mindfulness, and sometimes aids to help us reduce symptoms that, if are left alone, can lead to habitual tension that will just stay in our bodies. Symptoms that we can address are going to be pain and stiffness, mental fatigue, and those together can lead to avoidance behaviors. You know, when you wake up and you just think of the aches and pains you go through, and then that can start creating feelings of not wanting to go to work, avoiding certain tasks because you're going to have to crunch really hard, or it's going to make you extra stressful and you're just dreading it, right? So I just thought this picture was funny because this kid got strapped to a board to try to bring his head back and to keep his posture. So I don't think I should do that, but that is actually what we're going for, that head back. Okay. All right. So this is a brief look at how we sit. This woman, she looks like she's got it going on, right? She looks like she's easily sitting there upright and getting her job done. We're going to break this down a little bit more in a minute. So next, this is what we're going for, but this is what ends up happening. And this might seem a little exaggerated, but sometimes that's not. Sometimes this is actually how we end up looking. We're going to break this image down into parts so that we can understand what really is going on here. But overall, she's looking, hunched over, her neck is forward, her chin is jutting out towards her screen. Her whole spine is just collapsed over, and she doesn't look very comfortable at all, but she looks intensely involved in what she's doing, right? And sometimes that just happens. because it's not that she doesn't know that she should be sitting like this person, but she gets lost from her work, or she gets tired, her back starts just getting stingy from holding upright so long, and she collapses forward. It's common. So if we go back to this picture, let's take a look at what she's doing right. So if we can pretend that, let's see, format, draw, oh, draw, okay. Oh. Draw. Okay, if we can pretend that this woman has her plumb line here, pretend that's straight, going all the way down. she's doing a pretty good job. So her monitor is at eye level. That's great. Her chin looks like it's pretty level. Ooh. Her chin looks level here, so she's not tilting up or down. Her ears are fairly mid-center in her body. Her arm bends at the elbow to go straight out. There's no crease in her wrist here. Her feet are supported by something that allows her knees and her pelvis to have a comfortable relationship. And her back has this nice support that she can use, as opposed to having to support it constantly on her own. So she sits back so she gets that lumbar support. All right, so, oh, this doesn't go away. There we go. Okay, so with standing desks, we're looking for the same thing, keeping chin level, ears over the shoulder, shoulders down, back and relaxed, elbows at sides. The things that you pay more attention to on a standing desk is how your pelvis is sitting, what your knees are doing, and what your feet are doing. So I'm going to come back. Addie, how do I make my screen up as opposed to the slide?
Oh, go ahead and just unshare at the bottom where you have share screen.
Oh, stop share.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. So before I move on to nitty-gritty details, I want to walk through the process of the sitting in the chair, right? So first step, it's a little hard to do. Ideally, I would have a person here to demonstrate on, but because we're social distancing, it's just me, right? So I'm gonna try to come to the side here. So the head orientation. We wanna put our finger on our chin and bring it back so that we have our head over our shoulders. Okay, so when I say the chin should not be jutting forward, this is where we end up. We wanna bring it back. We want to be aware where our shoulders are, and the best way to do that is to bring them up first, and then let them fall back and down. And don't force them back, because that'll cause a new strain, so just let them sit back gently after a nice shoulder roll back. So when you retract your chin, that helps engage the rest of your spine to sit where it normally should. So that chin tuck is great. So that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the neck juck and the chin tuck. So going back to this. So hopefully that makes sense with the orientation of the neck and upper back. Going down to the pelvis. When we're standing, we want to go for something that is called neutral pelvis. And that is, okay, all right. Oh, there's my dog, Sheba. All right, so neutral pelvis is when we find the spot where we're sitting most comfortably in the pelvic bowl. This is considered the pelvic bowl because it looks like it's the bowl, right? So what we're doing in this, we're rocking it forward and back, like that, until we find the happy medium where we feel like our spine sits most comfortably on top of our pelvic bowl. So that's going to be the lumbosacral junction and its relationship to the pelvis. when we're growing up, women anyway are at least taught, you know, stick the butt out a little bit, but that's going to cause strain on this area and add to the pain. So seated or standing, that becomes important to find where you have the position of your back and pelvis where there's least tension. And that's where you want to lock in and hold your erect spine. So, okay, so the neutral pelvis, the knees are going to stay slightly bent when we're standing so that we're not locking out the legs. That's going to stop blood flow and create whole new tension. Shifting side to side on our feet is going to help with that, and having a cushioned mat, definitely big helps. Whether you're standing or sitting, a really important part is just making micro adjustments all of the time, whether that just be a slight shift from one side to the other, resetting a little bit, taking a deeper breath. We want to just find ways to cue our body to be awake again. When we sit still for too long, that's when blood and nutrients start draining, muscles turn off, and then we start getting little tissue spurs that go out and cause other problems. We're going to get into that more later. Okay, so we're getting into it now. Why is posture such a big deal? Well, even sitting is considered a microtrauma. A sustained load over time, especially day after day for years and years, is going to develop a wear and tear on the body. One of the mechanisms, so there's going to be a few mechanisms that contribute to that. First one is called creep. So I imagine it like our tissues just, you know, they're kind of creepy crawly in a sense. Creep is an explanation of the viscoelastic quality of our tissues, the muscles and tendons and ligaments. When we take a certain position forward, that is going to cause, for example, the ligaments between each of these little bones in the neck, in the back, in the shoulders, and the arms. When we take a new position and this spreads, the ligaments between these points have to spread out as well. And when they're sustained in one spot for a long time, the plastic quality of our ligaments has to stretch. And it's just like plastic that you would take off of a case of water bottles. You have to stretch it out until it finally breaks and you can pull one out. So the longer we're in that position, our tissues are spreading and taking on that shape, whether it be a postural shape or, you know, if you're laying on your side watching a movie, all that stuff becomes stretched out, takes on a new shape. And the longer you're there, it's going to take more time to go back to its original length without being stretched out. When the stretch happens, there's going to be a rearrangement of the things that make up those tendons, such as collagen, different kinds of proteins in the water. Over time, that contributes to muscle and tendon shortening, and then it becomes more of a challenge to re-lengthen those parts. Okay, hysteresis, it's similar to creep, but it's an explanation of kind of why creep is happening. So when the ligaments stretch, there is an expenditure of proteins and nutrients in those ligaments and muscles. Therefore, it's considered a loss of energy. And everything in our body is accomplished through use of energy of some sort. So when those tendons and muscles become stretched, they're losing spring and their ability to absorb shock. And shock doesn't have to be a blow. It can just be from the compression of sitting in your chair for too long. That can be considered a shock or just a load. So giving those ligaments a rest from the load is going to re-infuse the ligaments with the nutrients to be able to give you spring and protection you need from weight-bearing activities, even sitting down being one of those. Okay, all right. And just throw out to why we feel so heavy after sitting for long periods, or even why when we first get up in the morning, takes a minute to get going and feel light. Thixotropy is best explained like stirring a can of paint. When you first start, it feels really dense and thick, and there's stuff on the bottom that you have to stir, and it feels heavy. But once you get going, then you have that momentum. So our muscles are become more viscous, feel more dense when they're not moving. When we start warming them up and moving around, then we can feel lighter. So when we've been sitting for, an hour or more and we haven't taken a break, it just feels exhausting to get up, So the more we take small breaks throughout the day, the less heavy we're going to feel overall. So just a little encouragement to take, just short breaks to just move and get things flowing a little bit. Okay, the other thing that happens when we are sitting for long periods of time is we get trigger points, or more commonly referred to as knots. So the way that a knot is created, muscles, when they contract, when this muscle, the biceps, contracts, it's shortening from here to here, and that causes this bulge. This bulge is happening because the muscles are made of something called motor units. Motor units are cells that are long and thin, and they're connected like this. And when we contract a muscle, they have to slide over each other like this. So if I'm stressed out and I'm working at the computer and I don't really notice it, and I start going like this, or even just like one side with my cursor, and I'm just like going through something that's really stressful, but that can last for hours or all day long if you've gotten to the habit of working like this. So what is this motion? Your muscle from here to here is contracting and shortening. And this is one of the most common places that people feel that they have knots occurring. So if you're like this all day, then the muscle fibers are crossing like this, and they're never getting a chance to relax and lengthen. When they don't get to lengthen, they start making a relationship to each other, and they get little adhesions that kind of then start wrapping around each other, making it even harder when you are relaxed at the end of the day. You've tried stretching, you've done deep breathing, or you've even done yoga. Once those adhesions starts taking a relationship to each other, they're not going to just fall back apart and relax again. They're going to need some coaxing. So that is the trigger point explained. All right. Okay, so let's review quickly the common issues that are coming from a seated position or a standing position, just desk posture, generally speaking. So headache, neck pain, tense shoulders, maybe wrist pain, considered carpal tunnel pain or tingling in the wrist or fingers. You can get an increased upper back curve called the dowager's hump from the repetitive slouching, and sore hips, sore back, leg pain or sciatica. With standing, and you can add to that some sore knees, possibly foot pain, and more of a stiff low back perhaps. So I want to go through these a little bit more in detail. All right, headache. Why would slouching lead to headache? So this model is of a spine, a full spine, okay? And you can see we have these normal curvatures. Here's the lumbar curve, the thoracic curve, and the cervical curve, right? So we've got the neck, upper mid back, and low back. The relationship of the head to the top of the neck, okay? This is the back, and this is the bottom of the skull. Right here is gonna be all of this area. I don't know if you can see that, all of this area. This is a really important area because this is where all of these back muscles are gonna come up and attach to your head right here. And that's a lot, like there's so many muscles back here, it's crazy. And beyond the muscle attachments, where your spinal cord comes down through the top of your skull, they come out through here, and it's wildly innervated with blood flow and nerves. So you have blood flow and nerves with muscles, tons of muscles, tiny intricate muscles on top of that. So when we start slouching and the head, the shoulders and upper back come forward, and then the head juts out, that's approximating this lower head to the neck. So if these are approximating, this space is getting crunched and tightened and stuck. All these muscles are shortening, the blood flow is reduced. And now, not only are you shortening these muscles, but these muscles in the front have to elongate to be able to sit like that. So now these muscles are weak because they're stretched out constantly. And these muscles are weak because they're shortened and they've been turned off because it's been so long since they've had to engage. They're just crunched and tough. So along with all of these muscle attachments right here at the back of the head, that's just gonna cause a riddlement of trigger points that we discussed, those shortening. And if you touch back there and you just take your finger and you just start rubbing in one spot without moving it, just rubbing it, you'll find lots of tender points and it'll feel really good. You can go all over the skull, but that's because all of those places have been condensed so much from the basic posture that we assume. So that's going to explain headache. The reduced blood flow can cause terrible headaches or migraines. And going back. All right. The neck pain, obviously. The tense shoulders when we go into the forward roll. If our keyboard's too far away, our mouse too far away, and we go into that forward roll position, the muscles shortening here are going to be from your sternum to the shoulder, the end of the tippy top of your shoulder, your pectoralis muscle. That's now shortening. And now we're going to get trigger points in here, and it's going to be harder to just be able to stand upright and open, which is what we all want to do when we feel nice and free. We want to be able to have open chest and feel good and be able to take a deep breath. And if this is tight and closed off, that's going to prohibit our structure that's going to allow us to have that nice, free, open breath feeling. Okay. All right, the Dowager's hump from that postural slump, essentially when we stay in a forward posture long enough, these bones, this is a larger model so I can show you. So when we stay in that forward posture of this coming over like that, if we're there long enough over time, these bones can remodel. They'll start making new surface attachments so that they're more likely to stay like that. After that happens, it's pretty hard to come back from that. And then you are just kind of stuck with a little bit more of a hunchback. Not like Notre Dame, but it'll be much harder to be upright and erect. Okay. Particularly more important for women who it's more common, osteoporosis is more common, so the remodeling happens faster. Okay. Sore hips, sore back, and sciatica. Sore hips, obviously, because we're sitting on our butt. Or if we're standing, that's just a lot of force coming up. So wiggling around a little bit to get more engagement and blood flow into the joint is really good. Finding that neutral pelvis, rocking back and forth to make sure that we're sitting the best we can to transmit the force to our pelvic bowl the best way we can. That's gonna help. And a sore low back, well, when the upper back goes over, because this is a big giant strap of muscle here, when this goes over, it's pulling on everything else. So this curve then gets pulled on. So you start losing that curve. And when you lose that curve, next to go is the relationship between the low back and the sacrum or the tailbone. So this joint, the sacrum and the low back, it doesn't have a muscle crossing to give it any kind of muscular support. So it relies heavily on the person to monitor the position of the pelvis in relation to that. So finding that, rocking back and forth through your pelvis to find the spot where you feel the least tension and the most grounded is key for this relationship. But essentially, everything you do up here pulls and translates to down here. So ideally, we want somebody to have that nice curve here, transmits up, sitting up straight, and their head forward. Okay, so moving back to the slide. I'm getting better at that. Okay. And the last one, I don't know if anybody suffers from sciatica. That can be made much worse from sitting. That is because when we sit on this bone here, we have the hip, the leg bone, the femur that it connects here, and the piriformis muscle that comes off of the sacrum here and crosses over. So when we sit down, we're sitting right on that. The piriformis muscle is important because underneath that, and sometimes through that, runs the muscle responsible for sciatica. So when that piriformis muscle is sat on or just stuck from being rigid and not moved, then it tightens over that nerve and transmits, pinches that spot, which then transmits all the way down the rest of the leg or just to the knee or to that thigh. But very easy to take care of. It just requires some participation. All right. Okay. Oh, we just went through this. I didn't change the slide. So we went through all that. So what to do? The best theme, the best thing I could say, motion is lotion. And that is something that one of my professors always said. It's catchy and it's 100% true. So when we stay in one spot, there's nothing to encourage blood flow to that area. Even though nerves and ligaments don't have a strong blood flow, they still have a lot of cellular transmission for proteins and fluids. And the health of them is also largely dependent on motion. A nerve is like a string, and it is encased. So it has coverings that go over it. So when we stay in one spot, just like the muscle fibers that can adhere when they're not sliding open and lengthening and shortening, the nerve is also encased in a sleeve that it needs to be able to glide back and forth through. So when the nerves stay there and they're not gliding anywhere, they're going to start forming adhesions inside too. And then that's when we have things that are referred to as nerve entrapment, common at the elbows, common here at the wrist with carpal tunnel. It can happen at the piriformis, causing sciatica. It can happen anywhere where there needs to be a nerve gliding, but it gets stuck rigid and starts adhesing. So motion, we gotta move to lubricate our muscles, our tendons, get blood flow. When we're stressed and anytime our muscles are doing, our cells are doing any kind of job, there's gonna be exudates or cellular waste, and it'll sit there unless more fluid comes through to carry it out. All right, so what do? We need to take frequent micro adjustments. That can be as simple as doing a neck roll, a shoulder roll, change into position, do a quick hand-supported back bend, both hands on the low back, and just lean back a little bit. Just little twitches and movements to keep things going rather than getting stuck, tunnel vision, not taking a break. If you have the luxury, which we do now that most of us are working at home, give yourself a 4-minute micro break every 20 to 30 minutes. Lie face up on the floor put your knees up on a chair so that your hips are at 90-90, your knees and legs are at 90-90. That's gonna take a ton of pressure off of your spine and just alleviate it's gonna counteract that downward force that you've been sitting on all day. Take a little walk to get water, coffee, just do a lap around your house or the building. I want to talk to you about the brain float later on, and some other, we're going to go through a little more exercises in a little bit. So micro adjustments frequently, self-care, mini micro breaks, 3 to 5 minutes long, every 20 to 30 minutes. Make your lunch break count, eat your lunch, and then take a walk. And don't underestimate stretching. There we go. Don't underestimate stretching, because that is gonna, if you don't have time to, go do a bigger workout, or just give yourself at least the benefit of stretching, whether it be a neck stretch, arm stretch, but move more in general, because the more muscle tone that we have, the easier it is for our body to be automatically supporting our skeletal structure without you having to consciously be aware of it. It's going to make everything much easier in that sense. And muscle, because it holds its tone, it's giving us more spring and protection from all kinds of forces, micro trauma, so on. All right, so now you know, but you're probably going to end up slouching anyway, because that's just what happens throughout the day. No one is going to be the bionic human who has perfect posture all the time. And frankly, sometimes it just feels good to slouch. So there are several things that we can do to just support ourselves in the process anyway. So use props. Standing desks obviously are wonderful, particularly the ones that you can adjust up and down, but they run hundreds of dollars. So not everybody has that luxury. We can use, let's see, here's an easy way around that. These sit on top of your desk. So it allows you to have a stand and have the keyboard lower than the screen. And you can adjust it to your height for the right thing. And that's nice, because then you can still have the option of sitting or standing. A quick mention about laptops. The keyboard and the screen are both pretty low. They're going to be stuck to the surface you're at. So these are really helpful if you have if your main computer is a laptop, then you can put one of these on these and maybe get a Bluetooth connection for your laptop there. There's also these ergonomic mouses. So if carpal tunnel or wrist pain is your thing, or even if you don't have carpal tunnel wrist pain, but you have elbow pain, then one of these can help. It's an ergonomic mouse. I know that Anchor, the brand Anchor, makes a really nice one, but it allows less twist and force through the wrist. See, there's less angle here, and allows a nice straight shoot through to the mouse. And when you're sitting at the desk, give yourself some lumbar support, a chair that either has it, or else buy a pillow that will sit back there nicely. I have one from Costco. I'll show you guys later. I don't know if you can see me, but I have one from Costco. It's gel and it's nice. But I like it because I can use it in the chair or on the floor, and that comes in handy. Okay, so floor cushions. When you're standing, this is a great benefit. Heads up you can give yourself. There are these air-filled ones, or there is a foam cushion, or there is this board that you can stand on that is, these little balls have air in them. And this, you can move the balls to the inner part or keep them on the outer part, and that allows you to rock back and forth. What the picture doesn't show is that you can tilt, you can tip forward or backward, and that gives all of these three things here, standing on something that, a ground that is a little bit pliable and moves. What that does is oh, let me check. Okay, what that does, if these are your feet, and it's on a movable surface, if these are your feet, that feedback on that spongy surface or the air bubble is giving proprioception up to the rest of your body. So that makes everything else engage. An uneven surface is making your legs engage. It's making your pelvis make tiny adjustments. From the pelvis connects to your abdominal muscles. The abdominal muscles then have to worry about keeping you up from side to side, front to back. So all of that is helping you, your body, it's cueing your body to stay turned on instead of shut off and then go and move into slouch zones.
Heather, this might be a good time for it. We have one question. When trying to find the sweet spot for your pelvis, how do you know that your spinal posture is actually good versus just feeling comfortable because it's what your body is used to?
Right, that's a great question. When, so a good way to try, there's a part of that where you have to kind of get used to feeling your body. So when you're doing that rocking back and forth motion, you know, it's like an Elvis Presley pelvic thrust, really, right? So you want to take it to the extreme on both ends. You want to tuck your tailbone in, tuck your tailbone in as far as you can, and then rock it out. This will make your butt protrude, and you want to take that as far as you can. And when you come this way, you should feel a tightness and discomfort at end range. And when you come this way, you should feel a discomfort where there's just, you know, you're stretching out this portion, it doesn't feel good. So you keep rocking it back and forth until you feel like if someone was to push you from any direction without you seeing, you'd have the best position of catching yourself. You want it to feel your strongest and your most comfortable. And from there, everything else should feel like it's sitting nice and easy, as long as you also have your chin upright and back. I don't quite see who said that. So if that makes sense, let me know. If it doesn't, feel free to set up a Skype with me and I can watch you do the pelvis, finding neutral pelvis. Okay, moving back. Okay, so this was a great way to stimulate your body to stay muscles to stay turned on, giving yourself proprioceptive feedback, helps your body stay engaged, which ultimately translates to your mind staying engaged. Okay, and the floor rest, whether you're seated or standing. If you're seated, okay. If you're seated, this is great. This adjustable one will help you find like a right angle that helps you feel comfortable. This one is nice because it's rocking. So if you are feeling antsy, you know, you can rock it back and forth a little bit here. You can stand on it, rock it back and forth. But either way, if you're sitting, this is going to help support your knees to your pelvis, as opposed to feeling like your legs are heavy and drawing you off of your seat. If you're standing, you can alternate put the board here and put one leg up, alternate weight, shift weight from side to side. Just gives you something to do and feel more comfortable instead of just resorting to one collapsed posture. All right, and this is it's called a posture corrector, but this is something that some people like to cue them when they feel they're coming forward and down. So the straps essentially keep your shoulders pulled back and upright. I myself haven't used these because I feel like wearing a bra is enough straps for me. But I know other women who love them, men and women who just love them and feel like they help them a lot. Or if they're just going into a heavy work week, they'll pull it out because they don't want to feel so tired and crunched up by the end of the day. Okay, so I want to go over, one sec. Okay. Oh yeah, Addie, you found you posted the links for the anchor.
Yeah, Maddie, actually our assistant has been posting links to stuff. So we will also send all this out in a follow-up email with your recording and info on how to get in touch with you as well.
Cool. I saw the chat thing, so
Oh yeah.
Okay, so some exercises to negate the shortening of muscles and tendons after staying in one position for too long. So the first one I want to go over is commonly talked about in chiropractors or osteopath offices, and it's called Brugger's position of relief. And so despite being in, you know, a desk working position all day, when you stop to reset yourself, even if it's just for a couple minutes or a few breaths, that taking a moment to reset, it's reinforcing and telling your nervous system, hey, it feels good here, trying back to center, at least as a touchstone. So Brugger's position of relief. We're going to, I want you to be able to see my hand, so I'm cutting the screen a little bit. So you're gonna do the chin tuck, pull it back. You're going to have the string coming out of your head to pull you up. Chin tuck back, string up, roll your shoulders up, let them fall down and back, palms up. You're nice and aligned now. You've done your final neutral pelvis so that you're sitting in a nice, comfortable, strong, neutral spot. Okay, from here, just take 5 long, deep breaths. So from here, like I said, that's just reminding your nervous system and your skeletal structure that that's what feels good. We don't want to lose that home base. So even if you really got to drill it and go at it, just take a moment to reset, do that little micro adjustment. It'll feel a lot better. Do that throughout your day if you can. Okay. All right. Neck and shoulder rolls, that's pretty self-explanatory. Roll your neck around, do some range of motion, back, forth, side to side, gentle though. The chin tuck and retraction, we went over that. It's really important, so I'm gonna go over it again. It's not, I know it's not a flattering position, you know, it scrunches all of your skin together, but it's good for you and your neck will thank you. So finger on here, put it in, and then you can do a couple wiggles even. Get it side to side and wake up. You're waking up all of these muscles back here that get shortened and compact. Another great way to go at that is using a wall. Try to get your shoulders back and down, press it into the wall, lengthen your spine on the wall, and that'll get more of a stretch into your upper shoulders too that are connecting right up into there. Okay.
Can you overstretch, Heather?
Would you say overstretch? Yes, in a way. So if you're stretching in a way that you're forcing things down and forcing things open, that's definitely a way that you can cause a strain, especially if these muscles are interlocked, they're shortened, and they're weak because they haven't had any nutrients into these areas to help them release. If you force yourself into that, well, then you can just tear your muscles a little bit, cause strain, and then add to the inflammation. You'll feel yourself do that though. When we have these trigger points or these knots and shortened muscles, that's like one of the most common ways to cause minor acute injuries. So say, you know, you're at work and then we get hit by the snowstorm, and next thing you know, you need to go out and shovel the driveway. Well, because your muscles are shortened and weak and stressed out, then you go to do a forceful movement. Now they're primed to have a strain or pull something, tear something minor. But taking those micro breaks and trying to lengthen things out, all of that's just going to help negate those getting those tender, rigid spots. But if you can't really overstretch if you're just listening to how it feels and taking it nice, slow, and easy. Okay. All right. Chin tucks, arm circles, self-explanatory. Arms against the wall. Just get your wall, put your arm back, open it up, lean into it, and open up all of this that gets shortened when we're at the desk. Okay. Supported back bend, cat, cow, pigeon, and using a foam roller. The supported back bend, that's 2 hands on the lower back. Knees are straight. You don't want to bend the knees unless you really have to. You're just doing a slight little bend. Bend back that way. And what that does, when we're sitting, say this is the low back. When we're sitting, we have this downward force on our spine. And these discs, these are rubber discs on this model, but what they're trying to convey is that they take on a load. They get squished, they take on a load when we're sitting or standing, jogging. And when we're sitting, we have that tendency to flex forward. We flex forward. And when we flex forward, that is causing the juices of this disc to go backwards into the back of the disc. So spending time plunge forward, the front disc gets dried out, loses its nutrients, that leaves it less protected to the force that's coming down on it. So when we do this back bend, it's letting all of the stuff that's gone to the back of the disc, and it's now pushing it back to the front. That's really, really good for you. And the legs on top of the chair, when we sit face up and we put our legs on a chair, I don't have a good picture of that, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You lay down, put your legs on the seat of the chair. That is also, when we're doing that, drawing the legs up and out, tractioning the spine a little bit. It'll feel really good. But that back bend also helps restore a little bit of the lumbar curve that we lose when we're going forward, pulling on the low back. Okay, the cat, cow, and the pigeon pose, those are things drawn from yoga. Cat, cow is a flexion and extension when you're on hands and knees. It's a flexion and extension, a forward bend and a back bend on the floor that you do repeatedly. And that is essentially kind of what I just told you about, done more rapidly to help rejuvenate the discs and the spine, wake things up. I'm gonna defer you guys to YouTube for that. Same as pigeon. Pigeon I have here because, pigeon I have here because it is, in my mind, the best thing to lengthen the hip flexors when we're sitting all day. If this is the spine and this is your legs, the muscles coming from the leg to the pelvis, instead of when we stand up, they're lengthened, but when we sit all day, particularly the psoas muscle shortens, our hip flexors and the psoas shorten, and that is going to make us draw from our hip to our spine in tighter and closer. I hope that makes sense. So hip flexors are coming out here, we sit down, and then the distance from our leg to the pelvis becomes shortened. And then that muscle becomes tight. That contributes to low back pain and postural deformities in general. So I want you to YouTube cat, cow, and pigeon pose. And then the foam roller. A lot of you probably have this. I recommend a very soft foam density, so it has a lot of give. If it's too hard, it's just gonna hurt. You're not gonna wanna do it, or you're not gonna do it right. So I'm gonna let you YouTube foam roller 2 to target the piriformis, the shoulders, the back, and hamstrings. There's lots of great resources for that. So rather than me try to finagle the laptop on the floor, I'm gonna let you guys YouTube that. And the last thing I kind of want to show you guys is the brain float, because I think it's one of my favorites. All you need for this is a 10-foot strap. If you can find one, maybe from, you could, I don't think you get away with a rope, but if you were to just buy one on Amazon, it has to be 10 feet because it needs to span the distance of your head to your feet when you're laying down. You roll up, if you don't have a yoga bolster, you just roll up a shower towel and then put that onto your back right here. You're gonna connect the strap so that it's a loop. One end is gonna go under the bottom of the foot. The other one's gonna wrap around to the base of the skull. And you just lie down. And the reason this is so good is because it's offering traction all through the back of the neck, where all those muscles are connecting the top of the head and pulling on the upper back. So that's working the trigger points that are contributing to the headache. And it's lengthening the spine in general. But not only is this doing that, these inversion poses, the legs up, really help calm the nervous system. And Sundog Yoga, she's in Bend, and she right now is offering Skype, yoga at home through Zoom. So I don't know what she charges. She might be just running out of donation right now, but I mentioned that because she's all about restorative poses, lengthening things slowly and gently with minimal props. So if that's something that interests you, I would encourage that. But this pose is one of my favorites to just relax my head, neck, shoulders, and calm down. All right, and then as for extra support, the last thing that I wanted to mention was when you just need a little bit more. So my favorite supplements that I personally take when I just feel a hard week coming on, or if I just feel depleted, despite all of my other efforts of sleep and healthy diet and exercise, I have 4 things that are my go-tos, and you can find this stuff in the grocery store, or if you have a favorite supplement line, these are common things that they probably carry. So B vitamins, a complex of B vitamins. B vitamins are really, really important for helping our bodies deal with various kinds of stress, physical, mental, emotional. They're going to help restore nerve endings to help them recover from microtrauma, stress, things that deplete us. When I can't sleep very well, or when I have stress that just doesn't crack, then I turn to a form of GABA. This one's by Thorne. GABA helps the nervous system in a direct way. It soothes, rather than, it's different than B vitamins in that it targets the nervous system differently. It can help relax you present time to help with sleep or just calming down. Adrenal support, that's really good to help when you just feel like you've got a ticking going on in your body, and you're also you're ticking, but you're also tired and fatigued at the same time. Adrenal support is going to help your body process the stress much easier. The last one, inflammation is actually one of the main causes of any kind of disease, because when we have inflammation in the body, we're bringing in toxic chemicals that are staying there, spreading and festering and becoming larger problems. So I take turmeric for this. You can take fresh turmeric if you'd like, but whatever the case, you need to combine it with either black pepper, or this company combines it with fenugreek. When you combine it with something that makes it more bioavailable, such as black pepper, it becomes something about 2,000 times more available to your body to absorb and utilize. So that wraps up everything I want to talk about. Movement, diet, sleep, exercise, and supplementation if you need a little more. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heather. That was amazing. I certainly took a lot of notes. And I don't know about anyone else listening, but we were doing all of that with Dr. Heather. I was moving my neck and my chin and my face, and I'm like, oh, my body just hurts. So really good reminders, especially working from home on a laptop. I know everyone, we get pretty set up at work, but now that we're at home, I know I'm super crunched over my laptop at my kitchen table all day, and time just flies. So I'm personally very thankful for all of those reminders. To everyone listening, it's 1 o'clock now. Thank you so much for sticking with us. It was an awesome time. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be sending out an email later this afternoon or tomorrow that will have all of Heather's information. If you have more specific questions for her, we'll give you her information so you can ask her or set up a time to meet with her. And we'll have some links for you as well. From things that maybe were mentioned today. Yeah, so you should have all the information. And if you have more questions for her, she will be accessible.
Yes.
Thanks again, Heather.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.